Resident assistants, commonly known as RAs, are a huge part of UW-Whitewater's campus. RAs are student staff members who help facilitate positive learning communities in the resident halls. Every residence hall floor has at least one RA who is available to serve as a resource for residents, to offer individual assistance, and to promote community development by interacting individually with students and encouraging group interactions. In the past 5 years, there have been some slight changes concerning the RA position, one of which is the rise in student enrollment. As of this year, there are about 135 RAs living in campus residence halls, as opposed to 5 years ago when there were only about 118. Director of Residence Life, Terry Tamborello, believes this statistic plays an important role in the RA position.
Probably our biggest thing in the last few years has been how overcrowded we are. We are vastly overcrowded in the halls, which is a good problem to have, but it still creates dynamics. And for the RAs specifically, probably the biggest dynamic is often the loss of a lot of common area space.
Terry is not the only Residence Life professional staff member who believes that the rise in student enrollment affects the RA position. So does Assistant Director of Staff and Academic Development, Trelena Daniel.
We have way too many students living in our residence halls, and it's just overcrowded. So we're in off-campus apartments, and we're leasing spaces so that we have enough places to fill everybody. That's been something that's been trending for the last 5 years. So the number of RAs has increased immensely since I started.
Trelena also says that this increase of enrollment has impacted the Residence Life's new programming model. Every 8 weeks, the professional staff members redissect the programming model to benefit not only the residents, but current and future RAs. In the past, RAs were only required to throw floor and sometimes building programs. But in the last couple of years, and now, there have been more requirements for RAs to throw complex-wide programs. Tutton Fisher's Assistant Complex Director, Maria Glorioso, was surprised to see how the program requirements have changed since she was an RA in Whitewater about 5 years ago.
When I was an RA, we only had to do 2 programs a month, and it was a social program or an academic program. I was so isolated to just my floor that unless I was on duty rounds, I really didn't get to see the rest of the building. So I really like that there is the complex wide aspect now, so you get that whole community feel as opposed to all of the different floors being isolated.
The increase of programming has benefited many residence halls, but is a tricky task when it comes to the resident apartment complexes. There are currently 2 on-campus apartments available through UW-Whitewater Housing, Cambridge and Fox Meadows. RAs typically have a harder time with programs in these housing areas because the layout and atmosphere does not resemble the average residence hall. Cambridge and Fox Meadows lead RA Wesley Suckert says planning programs can be difficult at times in these apartments.
There's more closed doors. There's 2 doors you have to go through. Because sometimes there's in their bedroom inside the apartment, so there's 2 doors compared to 1. There's not a common bathroom area that they have to walk in the hall or go fill up a water bottle or something like that. So programming, you really have to connect with your residents, and I think that's changed over the years. I think it's another challenge, but it's doable. You just really have to connect with your residents on a one-on-one basis and get that face time so they know that you genuinely care about them and the programs are geared towards them.
Even with these difficulties, Wesley believes that the new programming model has benefited not only the RA's interaction, but residents as well. At least once a year, there is one program shifted towards awareness of alcohol and drugs. There have been some slight changes in conduct over the past 5 years, but surprisingly, this year it seemed to be lowering even with the increase of student enrollment. Assistant Director of Community Development, Amanda Creer-Jenkins, says that even though conduct reports are down, there are still some concerns with more drug-related issues.
Marijuana, but also some of the more harder drugs that can get pretty scary. And so the RAs dealing with those emergencies and the potential overdoses and the police involvement can be pretty stressful in their roles. And 5 years ago, I don't know if they were dealing with that as often. On the flip side, though, what's really nice to know is that even though there might be a perception that everybody out there is drinking or smoking marijuana, really only about 10 to 12% of students are found responsible responsible for an alcohol violation each year, and it's less than 2%. It's about actually 1.5% for a drug violation. And so of our 4,000 students, we're talking about 400 that are getting in trouble for alcohol or drugs. And
over the past 5 years, those changes have benefited the RA position in a positive manner for the most part. As Terry Tamborello would tell you, things could always be improved, but residential education seems to be pointing in the right direction. This has been Brittany Hendricks reporting outside of Sterren.